Among the Valkyrie, this was the greatest shame a noble daughter could bring upon her family. The Valkyrie were an ancient race. They stood 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin that glowed softly in the dark. They had ruled 100 worlds for 10,000 years. They believed themselves superior to all other species in the galaxy, and Valith, the third daughter of High Archon Soranthus himself, had chosen to wed a creature they considered little better than an animal. His name was Marcus Cole. He was not a general or a diplomat. He was not wealthy or famous. He was simply a gardener who worked on Orbital Station Thessaly, a small trading post at the edge of civilized space. He spent his days growing flowers and caring for alien plants in the station's botanical preserve. When news of the marriage reached the Valkyrie homeworld, Velith's father struck her name from the family records. Her 2 sisters refused to speak of her. The noble houses whispered that she had gone mad. Valith did not care. For 300 years, she had lived in her father's court. She had survived poison attempts from rival houses. She had watched her mother die in a political assassination. She had learned to sleep with a knife under her pillow and to trust no one. Every smile hid a threat. Every gift came with strings attached. Then she met Marcus. She had come to Thessaly Station 5 years ago, running from an arranged marriage to a cruel lord who had already killed 2 wives. She had nothing but the clothes on her back and a small bag of coins. She was hungry, tired, and afraid. Marcus found her sitting alone in the botanical garden, crying. He did not know who she was. He did not recognize her noble markings or her expensive clothes. He simply saw a sad woman who needed help. He sat down beside her and offered her a sandwich. From his lunch bag, that small kindness changed everything. In the weeks that followed, Marcus helped her find work on the station. He taught her how to cook simple human meals. He listened to her stories about her homeworld without judgment. He never asked for anything in return. Valith had never met anyone like him. The Valkyrie valued power, wealth, and status. Every relationship was a transaction. Every conversation was a negotiation. But Marcus seemed to want nothing from her except her company. He was happy simply to share his tea with her and show her his favorite flowers. She fell in love slowly, then all at once. They married in a small ceremony on the station. Only a handful of humans attended. No Valkyrie came. Valith wore a simple white dress, and Marcus wore his best shirt, which had a small hole in the sleeve that he tried to hide. It was the happiest day of her life. 5 years passed. They lived in a small apartment near the botanical preserve. Marcus went to work each morning and came home each evening. He made her tea the way she liked it, with extra honey. He learned to speak her language, though his accent made her laugh. He held her when she woke from nightmares about her father's court. It was a simple life. A quiet life. A good life, but Valith noticed things about her husband that she could not explain. His eyes sometimes tracked movement that she could not see. When they walked through crowded places, he always positioned himself between her and any potential threat. He moved with a grace that seemed strange for a simple gardener. And there were scars on his body, old scars. Faded white with age he never talked about. Once, she had found him awake at 3 in the morning, sitting in the dark and staring at nothing. When she asked if he was okay, he smiled and said he had just had a bad dream. But his eyes looked distant, like he was seeing something far away. There was also the container. It sat in the back of their storage unit, a simple metal box with a complicated lock. Marcus checked it once a month. He would open the door, look at the box for a long moment, and then close the door again. He never opened the box itself. One night, after they had been married for 3 years, Valith finally asked about it. "What is in that container, Marcus? Why do you check it but never open it?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft and sad. "That box holds a life I buried a long time ago, Vale. A person I used to be. I would like that person to stay buried if that is okay with you." She saw pain in his eyes. Old pain, deep pain, the kind that never fully heals. She reached out and touched his face gently. "Okay," she said. "I will not ask again." She kissed his forehead, and they never spoke of it after that. Valeth told herself that everyone had secrets. Everyone had a past. What mattered was the present, and in the present, Marcus was kind and gentle and good. He made her happy in a way she had never been happy before. She did not need to know everything about him. She knew enough, or so she thought. The universe has a way of dragging buried things back into the light. The past does not stay buried just because we wish it to. And secrets, no matter how deep we bury them, have a way of rising to the surface when we least expect it. Valeth would learn this lesson soon. On a quiet morning, 5 years after their wedding, she woke to the sound of alarms. Through their apartment window, she saw something that made her blood turn cold. 7 Valkyrie warships hung in the space above the station. Their weapons were powered and ready. Their markings identified them as ships of the Royal Fleet. Her family had found her, and they had not come to talk. Valeth stood frozen at the window, her heart pounding. Beside her, Marcus was already awake. He stood very still, looking at the warships with an expression she had never seen before. It was not fear. It was something else entirely. "Marcus," she whispered, "what do we do?" He did not answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm and steady. "Get dressed, Vale, and stay close to me. No matter what happens next, stay close to me." She looked at her husband, her kind, gentle gardener, and, for just a moment, she did not recognize him at all. Something in his eyes had changed. Something old had woken up. The soldiers came within the hour. They wore black armor that covered them from head to toe. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. They moved through the station corridors in perfect formation, pushing aside anyone who got in their way. Station security took one look at them and stepped back. No one wanted to fight the royal guard of the Valkyrie Dominion. Valeth and Marcus waited in their apartment. There was nowhere to run. The station was surrounded by warships. Every exit was blocked by soldiers. They were trapped. When the door burst open, 12 guards poured into the small room. They pointed their weapons at Marcus and forced him to his knees. 2 of them grabbed Valeth by her arms and held her still. Then he walked in. Prince Thalrex, Sorinthus, firstborn son of the High Archon, heir to the Valkyrie throne. Valeth's eldest brother, he was tall even by Valkyrie standards, nearly 8 feet of muscle and arrogance. His armor was decorated with gold and precious gems. His eyes were cold and cruel, the eyes of a man who had never been told no in his entire life. "Sister," he said, speaking the word like it tasted bad in his mouth, "you have caused our family great embarrassment. Father was content to let you rot out here in obscurity. But circumstances have changed." Valeth struggled against the guards holding her. "What do you want, Thalrex?" "I left. I gave up my title, my inheritance, everything. I want nothing from the Dominion. What you want does not matter." Thalrex walked slowly around the small apartment, looking at their modest furniture with disgust. "The Dominion is dying, sister. A plague called the Withering is spreading through our core worlds. It attacks our genetics specifically. Millions are already dead. Billions more will follow." Valeth felt horror wash through her. Despite everything, the Valkyrie were still her people. The thought of them dying in such numbers was terrible. "Our scientists have been searching for a cure," Thalrex continued. "They found something interesting. Your hybrid biology, the mix of Valkyrie and human genetics, might hold the key. If you were to bear children with selected Valkyrie males, those children could produce antibodies that would save our species. You want me to?" Breed Velet's voice shook with anger, like an animal. "For the good of the Dominion, yes. You will return with us. You will do your duty. And your human pet?" Orex looked at Marcus, still kneeling on the floor with guns pointed at his head. "He will be disposed of. Cleanly, I promise. Consider it a mercy. He would not survive long in our territory anyway." Marcus had not moved since the guards forced him down. He knelt perfectly still, his head bowed, his hands resting on his thighs. He looked like a man who had accepted his fate. But Valeth knew her husband. She had spent 5 years learning the small details of his expressions and his movements. And something about him right now was wrong. He was too still, is too calm, like a coiled spring waiting to release. "Marcus," she whispered. He looked up at her, and she saw that his eyes had changed. The warmth was gone. The gentleness was gone. In their place was something cold and empty, like looking into a deep well with no bottom. These were not the eyes of a gardener. These were the eyes of something else entirely. "Vale," he said quietly. His voice was different, too harder, more controlled. "I need you to close your eyes for about 30 seconds. Can you do that for me?" "What?" "Marcus, what are you, please?" There was no fear in his voice, no panic, just calm certainty. "Close your eyes. And whatever you hear, know that I love you." Melrix laughed. It was an ugly sound. How touching. "The animal wants to protect his master." He gestured to the guards. "Kill him. Make it quick." "We do not have time," for Marcus moved. Valeth did not close her eyes. She tried, but she could not look away from what happened next. Her husband flowed across the room like water. One moment he was kneeling on the floor. The next moment he was among the guards, moving faster than her eyes could follow. The first guard fell before he could even fire his weapon. Marcus had somehow taken his blade and used it to cut through the weak point in his armor, all in a single motion. The second guard spun to aim at him, but Marcus was already behind him, already striking, already moving to the next target. It was not a fight. A fight implies two sides struggling against each other. This was something else. This was a predator moving through prey. The guards were elite soldiers. Each one had been genetically enhanced for combat. Each one had trained for decades. Each one wore powered armor worth more than the entire station. None of it mattered. Marcus killed 12 of them. In 4 seconds, he did not waste a single movement. Every step, every strike, every dodge was perfectly calculated. He seemed to know exactly where each guard would be and exactly how they would react. He moved through them like a ghost, leaving bodies in his wake. When it was over, Marcus stood in the center of the room, surrounded by fallen soldiers. He was not even breathing hard. There was blood on his hands, Belkari blood. Purple and dark, but not a single wound on his body. Prince Thalrex stumbled backward, his eyes wide with terror. He slapped at a device on his wrist, and a shimmering barrier of energy surrounded him. A personal shield generator. Valeth recognized it. That technology could stop shots from ship-mounted weapons. Marcus walked toward him. The shield flickered and sparked as Marcus reached it. Then, impossibly, he pushed through it. The barrier that could stop starship cannons simply parted around him. Like he was walking through a curtain, he grabbed Thalrex by the throat and lifted him off the ground with one hand. "I am going to explain something to you once," Marcus said. His voice was quiet and steady. "You are going to take this explanation back to your father, your council, and anyone else who thinks they can threaten my wife." He dropped Thalrex, who fell to his knees, gasping for air. 50 years ago, Earth fought a war. Not against the Valkyrie. You were busy with your own conquests then? We fought the Ashkari hegemony. Have you heard of them? Thalrex's face went pale. Everyone had heard of the Ashkari. They had been a powerful empire that controlled hundreds of worlds in the Orion Spur. Then, about 5 decades ago, they had simply vanished. Their entire civilization had been wiped out in less than 10 years. No one knew how or why. Earth created something to fight them, Marcus continued. A program. They took children orphans mostly and they made us into something else. Genetic modifications that do not exist in any database. Training methods your people cannot imagine. We were called Eidolons, ghosts. He paused and looked at his blood-covered hands. There were 200 of us originally. There are 11 left. Most died fighting the Ashkari. Some died because what they made us into was too much for the human mind to survive. The rest of us scattered. We disappeared. We tried to become human again. His voice cracked slightly. I grew flowers, Thalrex. For 5 years, I grew flowers and loved my wife and tried to forget what I am. I was happy. He looked back at the prince, and his eyes were cold again. Go home. Tell the Dominion that Valeth is under the protection of Eidolon 7. If they want her help, they will ask politely. They will respect her choices. And if a single Valkyrie warship ever threatens her again, he leaned close to Thalrex's face, I will do to your Dominion what we did to the Ashkari. Not because I want to, but because she is the only good thing I have found in this universe, and I will burn galaxies to keep her safe. The warships retreated within the hour. The soldiers took their dead and their wounded prince and they left. The station returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Valeth stood in their apartment, looking at the man she had married. The gardener. The gentle soul who made her tea and held her when she cried. The ghost who had just killed 12 soldiers in 4 seconds. She did not know what to say. She did not know what to feel. She only knew that the life she had built was gone, and something new and terrifying had taken its place. For 3 days, Valeth could not bring herself to speak to Marcus. She stayed in their bedroom with the door locked. She lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling and tried to make sense of what she had seen. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the bodies falling. She saw the blood on his hands. She saw the cold emptiness in his eyes. Marcus slept on the couch. He did not try to force the door open or demand that she talk to him. He simply waited, as patient and quiet as he had always been. He left food outside the bedroom door 3 times a day. He knocked gently each morning to ask if she needed anything. When she did not answer, he went to his garden and worked among the flowers. On the 4th day, Valeth finally opened the door. She found Marcus sitting in the living room, staring out the window at the stars. He looked tired. He looked sad. He looked like the man she had married, not the ghost who had killed 12 soldiers without breaking a sweat. You could have told me, she said. Her voice was rough from crying. Marcus did not look at her. I know. 5 years, Marcus. 5 years of marriage. And you never once mentioned that you were. That you could... ... double quotes. She could not finish the sentence. I hoped I would never have to. He'd finally turned to face her. His eyes were soft again, the eyes of the gardener, not the killer. I hoped that person was dead. I hoped I could just be Marcus Cole, the man who grows flowers and loves his wife. I wanted to be that person so badly. But you are not that person. You are Eidolon 7. You are a weapon that destroyed an entire empire. Marcus flinched at her words. I am both Vale. That is what I could never explain to you. The gardener is real. The love I feel for you is real. But the ghost is real too. It lives inside me. It never goes away. I've spent 50 years trying to be more than what they made me, but I cannot erase it. I can only control it. Valeth sat down across from him. Her legs felt weak. Her heart felt heavy. Tell me everything. I need to understand, so Marcus told her. He told her about the orphanage where he grew up. A gray building in a dying city on Earth. He told her about the men in uniforms who came when he was 6 years old, who tested the children and selected the ones with the right genetic markers. He told her about being taken away in the night, never to see his friends again. He told her about the training. Years of it. They modified his body, strengthened his bones, enhanced his muscles, rewired his nervous system to process information faster than any normal human. They put things in his brain that let him interface directly with computer systems. They taught him to fight in ways that should not be possible. But the worst part was not the physical changes. The worst part was the mental conditioning. They broke him down and built him back up. They erased his fear, his hesitation, his mercy. They taught him to kill without feeling, to complete missions without questioning, to see enemies as targets rather than people. They turned children into perfect soldiers. By the time he was 16, Marcus had already killed more people than he could count. We were weapons, he said quietly. Tools to be pointed at humanity's enemies. They sent us against the Ashkari, and we did things that I cannot speak about. Terrible things. Necessary things, they told us. The Ashkari would have wiped out humanity if we had not stopped them first, so you destroyed them instead. Yes, we did not just defeat them. We erased them. Their worlds, their culture, their entire species. That was our mission, and we completed it. Marcus's voice was hollow. 200 Eidolons against 900 worlds. It took 10 years. By the end, only 47 of us were still alive. The others, the ones who survived the war, some died afterward. The modifications we received were not meant for long-term survival. Our bodies began to break down. Our minds began to fracture. Many of my brothers and sisters went mad, unable to live with what they had done. They ended their own lives or had to be put down. Valeth felt sick. She thought of young Marcus, his child Marcus, being taken from his home and turned into a monster. She thought of the other children who had suffered the same fate. 200 of them. 200 lives destroyed to create weapons. There are 11 of us left, Marcus continued. 11 out of 200. We scattered after the war ended. Earth wanted to keep using us, but we refused. We had done enough. We just wanted to find some peace. You became a gardener. I tried to become human again. I thought that if I lived quietly, if I did gentle work, if I avoided violence completely, maybe the ghost would fade away. Maybe I could be just a man. He looked at her with such pain in his eyes that Valeth felt her heart break.
Didn't I met you?
And for the first time in my life, I felt something real. Something good. You made me believe that maybe I could have a normal life. That maybe I deserved to be happy. Valeth stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars, thinking about everything he had told her. Why did you not run? She asked. When you saw my brother's ships, you could have escaped. You have skills, Tha. Because you were here. Because I would rather die than abandon you. She turned to face him. Even knowing that revealing yourself would destroy the life you had built. That life means nothing without you, Vale. You are the only thing in this universe that I care about. I would burn down everything I have worked for if it meant keeping you safe. They stood in silence for a long moment. Then Valeth walked across the room and sat down beside her husband. She took his hand in hers. I fell in love with a gardener, she said softly. A man who made me laugh. A man who held me when I woke from nightmares. A gentleman who learned to cook Valkyrie food badly because he wanted to give me a taste of home. Marcus looked down at their joined hands. That man is real. I swear to you, he is real, I know. Valeth lifted his hand to her cheek. And I am realizing something. That gentleman exists because of what you survived. Not despite it. After everything they did to you, after everything you did, you chose softness. You chose to grow flowers and love a refugee princess who had nothing to offer you. She looked into his eyes. That is the most human thing I have ever seen. Marcus stared at her, not understanding. You are not afraid of me? I was. For 3 days I was terrified. But sitting here talking to you, I realized something important. She squeezed his hand. The monster would have killed my brother. The monster would have slaughtered the entire crew of those warships. But you did not. You showed mercy. You let them go. I did not want to be that person again. I did not want you to see. I saw a man protecting his wife. That is all I saw. She kissed his forehead gently. I married Marcus Cole, the gardener, the ghost, and everything in between. I am not going anywhere. For the first time in 4 days, Marcus smiled. It was a small smile, fragile and uncertain, but it was real. Outside their window, the stars continued to shine. The universe continued to spin. And somewhere out there, word was spreading about what had happened on Thessaly Station. The ghost of Earth's fallen war had revealed himself, and the galaxy was beginning to pay attention. The news spread faster than light. Within days, every major power in the galaxy knew what had happened on Thessaly Station. A single human had defeated 12 elite Valkyrie Royal Guards in seconds. He had walked through a military-grade energy shield like it was not there. He had threatened the Valkyrie Dominion and forced them to retreat. The name. Eidolon appeared on intelligence reports across 1,000 worlds. Analysts worked around the clock trying to understand what it meant. Old records were dug up. Classified files were opened. Slowly, the truth began to emerge. Earth had created super soldiers. They had used these soldiers to destroy the Ashkari hegemony, and 11 of them were still alive, scattered across the galaxy. Hiding in plain sight, the reactions varied. Some species felt fear. The Ashkari had been a mighty empire, and they had been erased completely. What would stop the humans from doing the same to others? Some species felt anger. They had been allies of the Ashkari. They had profited from hegemony trade and protection. When the Ashkari fell, they had lost everything. They had spent 50 years wondering what had happened to their partners. Now they knew, and some species saw opportunity. If the Eidolons could be captured, studied, and copied, that power could belong to anyone. In the shadows of the galaxy, old alliances began to reform. Ancient grudges were remembered. Plans were made. Meanwhile, on Thessaly Station, Marcus and Valeth tried to return to normal life. It was not easy. The other residents of the station looked at
Marcus
differently now. Some avoided him completely, crossing to the other side of corridors when they saw him coming. Others stared at him with a mix of fear and fascination. The children who used to visit his garden stopped coming, Marcus noticed. He pretended not to, but Valeth could see the pain in his eyes. "They are afraid of you," she said one evening as they sat in their apartment. "They should be." Marcus stared at his hands. "I am dangerous, Vale. I have always been dangerous. I just pretended otherwise. You are also kind. You are gentle. You are good. I am all of those things because I choose to be. But the choice could change at any moment. That is what scares them. That is what should scare you." Valeth shook her head. "I have seen evil, Marcus. It's real evil. My father's court was full of it. People who enjoyed causing pain. People who destroyed lives for pleasure." She reached out and took his hand. "You are not evil. You are wounded. There is a difference." They sat together in silence, taking comfort in each other's presence, but the outside world would not leave them alone. The Valkyrie. Dominion sent a formal diplomatic message. It was polite, almost apologetic. They acknowledged Marcus as the protector of Lady Valeth and requested, not demanded, her assistance in developing a cure for the withering plague. They offered full citizenship for both of them, a palace on the homeworld, and complete protection. Valeth was surprised. "My father would never approve such an offer. He would rather die than show weakness to a human. Perhaps he has realized that dying is exactly what will happen if he does not find a cure," Marcus said. "Pride becomes flexible when survival is at stake." They discussed the offer for days. Valeth wanted to help her people, despite everything they had done to her. Marcus supported whatever decision she made, though he worried about walking into the heart of Valkyrie territory. Before they could decide, another message arrived. This one was not diplomatic. It was a warning from another Eidolon. The message was short and encrypted, using codes that only the 11 survivors knew. It came from someone called 3, living on a distant colony world. 7. They are organizing. Multiple species. Ships gathering at the edge of known space. They are coming for you. Maybe for all of us. Watch your back. Marcus read the message 3 times. Then he sat down heavily, like the weight of the galaxy had just landed on his shoulders. "We cannot run forever," he said quietly. "What do you mean?" "I spent 50 years hiding, trying to disappear, trying to pretend I was normal." He looked up at her. "But I am not normal. I never will be. And now that the galaxy knows we exist, they will never stop hunting us." Valeth felt cold fear creeping into her chest. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that running does not work anymore. Hiding does not work anymore. Eventually, they will find me. They will find the others. And when they do, innocent people will be caught in the crossfire." He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the station continued its slow rotation, artificial day turning to artificial night. "The Ashkari War should have taught the galaxy a lesson," he continued. "They should have learned that some enemies are not worth making." But they did not learn. They never learn. They see power, and they want to take it. They see threats, and they want to eliminate them. So what do we do? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was steady and certain. "We stop hiding. We stop running. We show the galaxy what the Eidolons really are, not monsters hiding in the dark, but guardians willing to protect what we love. He turned to face her. I cannot speak for the others, but I am done being afraid of what I am. I am done letting fear control my life. Valeth stood and walked to him. She put her arms around him and held him close. Whatever you decide, I am with you, even if it means war. Even then, they held each other as the station lights dimmed to simulate nightfall. Outside, in the vast darkness of space, ships were gathering. Forces were mobilizing. A storm was coming. But for now, in this small apartment, there was only peace. Marcus thought about the other Eidolons. His brothers and sisters scattered across the galaxy, each of them living quiet lives, trying to forget what they were. Each of them carrying the same burden, the same pain, the same fear. He had not spoken to most of them in decades. After the war, they had all wanted to disappear. They had all wanted to be alone with their trauma. Reaching out felt like picking at a wound that had never fully healed. But 3 had sent the warning. That meant at least one other Eidolon was paying attention. That meant at least one other was ready to act. Maybe it was time to stop being scattered. Maybe it was time to stand together again, not as weapons, but as people. Not as tools of destruction, but as protectors. Marcus made his decision. He would reach out to the others. He would give them a choice. And when the storm finally arrived, he would not face it alone. The galaxy had made a mistake by threatening his wife. Now, it was making a bigger mistake by threatening his family, and the Eidolons took care of their family. 3 months later, they came. 200 warships appeared above Thessaly Station, emerging from fold space in perfect formation. They represented 9 different species, united by a common purpose: destroy the Eidolons before the Eidolons destroyed them. The coalition broadcast their demands across all frequencies. Surrender the human known as Eidolon 7 within 1 hour. If he was not handed over, the station and its 40,000 inhabitants would be reduced to ash. Panic swept through Thessaly. People ran for escape pods that did not exist. Families huddled together, praying to whatever gods they believed in. Station security sent desperate calls for help that no one could answer in time. In the command center, Marcus stood with Valeth at his side. The station commander, a gray-haired woman named Chen, looked at them with desperate eyes. They will do it, Chen said. They will destroy us all. You have to surrender. Marcus shook his head. If I surrender, they will kill me and study my body. Then they will hunt down the other Eidolons. Then they will turn whatever they learn against humanity. He looked out at the fleet of warships. This is not about me. This is about sending a message. If they succeed here, it will prove that humans can be threatened and defeated. Every species in the galaxy will try the same thing. So what do? We cannot fight 200 warships. Marcus smiled slightly. It was not a pleasant smile. We cannot. But I am not alone. He reached for a communication panel and entered a frequency that had not been used in 50 years. An emergency channel known only to the Eidolons. He opened a broadcast and spoke clearly. This is 7. I know you are all listening. I know you are all hiding, just like I was. You found quiet lives. You found peace. Some of you found families, people you love, reasons to keep living. He paused. So did I, and now they have come to take it away. Static filled the channel. Marcus continued. I am not asking you to fight for Earth. Earth abandoned us when the war ended. I am not asking you to be weapons again. We have all had enough of that. I am asking you to fight for the lives you have built, for the people you love, for the chance to keep being human. Silence. Then, one by one, voices began to respond. This is 3. I am on Kepler 4, for 2B. I can be there in 6 hours. 11 here. I am closer. 90 minutes. 2. Standing by. It has been too long. 7. More voices joined in. 4, 8, 9, 10. 12, 9. Eidolons answered the call. 9 ghosts who had buried themselves across the galaxy, building new lives from the ashes of the old. A doctor on a mining colony, a teacher in a small school, a cargo hauler running supplies to distant worlds, a musician playing in empty bars. All of them had tried to forget what they were. All of them chose to remember. The first to arrive was 11. A woman named Sarah, who had been hiding on a moon in the next system. She appeared in the command center wearing simple clothes, her gray hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked like someone's grandmother. But when Marcus looked at her, he saw the soldier he had fought beside 50 years ago. The woman who had single-handedly destroyed an Ashkari command ship. The ghost who had helped erase an empire. 7, she said, nodding to him. You look old. You're old, Marcus replied. Too old for this, maybe. But they gave us no choice. They looked out at the enemy fleet. Shall we show them why that was a mistake? Over the next few hours, the others arrived. They came on cargo ships, passenger shuttles, and in one case, a stolen fighter craft. They gathered in the command center of Thessaly Station, 9 humans who together had done the impossible. Marcus looked at them. His brothers and sisters? His family? The plan is simple, he said. We board their ships. We create chaos. We turn them against each other. We do not destroy them completely. I want survivors to tell the story. But we break them so thoroughly that no one ever tries this again. 3, a tall man with scars across his face, cracked his knuckles. Just like old times? No. Marcus shook his head. This time is different. This time, we are not fighting for Earth. We are not following orders. We are fighting for ourselves. For our families. For our right to exist in peace. He looked at each of them in turn. We show them what humanity is capable of. Then we go home. The battle lasted 11 hours. 9 humans against 200 warships. It should not have been possible. By any normal measure of warfare, they should have died in the first 5 minutes. But the Eidolons had never fought normally. They moved through. Enemy ships like shadows, appearing where they were not expected, and vanishing before anyone could react. They turned weapons against their own operators. They created confusion and panic, making crews turn on each other. They exploited every weakness, every fear, every moment of hesitation. Marcus fought his way through the flagship of the coalition fleet. He killed when he had to, and disabled when he could. He was not the same weapon he had been 50 years ago. He was something different now. Something that chose its targets instead of blindly following orders. Valeth watched from the station command center. She saw the flashes of combat through the view screens. She heard the desperate communications between enemy ships as they tried to understand what was happening to them, and she felt something she had not expected. Pride. Pride in her husband. Pride in the people who had answered his call. Pride in what humanity could accomplish when pushed too far. When it was over, the coalition fleet was broken. Not destroyed. Marcus had kept his word about that. But broken beyond any hope of continuing the fight. Ships drifted powerless. Escape pods scattered in all directions. Surrender signals broadcast on every frequency. 9 Eidolons returned to Thessaly Station. They were tired, wounded, and covered in the blood of their enemies. But they were alive, and the galaxy watched. They watched 9 humans defeat an armada. They watched the impossible become possible. They watched and finally understood why humanity had been left alone. For so long, it was not because humans were weak. It was because the galaxy had seen what happened to the last civilization that pushed humanity too far. 1 year later, Valeth stood on a balcony on the Valkyrie homeworld. Looking out at a city she had thought she would never see again, the sky was purple and filled with 3 moons. The air smelled of flowers she had almost forgotten. Marcus stood beside her, holding her hand. They had come here as ambassadors, not prisoners. Valeth's genetic contributions had helped synthesize a cure for the withering, saving billions of Valkyrie lives. Her father, the High Archon, had personally apologized to Marcus for what Thalrex had done. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, carefully, but changing nonetheless. The other Eidolons had returned to their lives. Some had revealed themselves publicly, choosing to live in the open rather than hiding in shadows. Others had disappeared again, preferring the quiet anonymity they had built. But they stayed in contact now, a family reunited after too many years apart, and on the grounds of the Valkyrie Palace. In a small garden that Marcus had requested as a condition of their visit, human flowers grew alongside Valkyrie blossoms.
Ow.
Do you regret it? Valeth asked, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of red and gold, revealing yourself. You can never go back to being invisible. Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering the question. I regret the years I spent afraid, he finally said. Afraid of what I was? Afraid that if anyone saw the truth, they would only see the monster. He turned to look at her, his eyes soft and warm. You saw me, Vale? All of me. And you stayed. He pulled her close. I am done hiding. I am done being ashamed. I am Marcus Coladolan VII, gardener, and the luckiest man in the galaxy. Because somehow, impossibly, you chose me. Valeth smiled and kissed him gently. Above them, ships from a dozen species passed peacefully through Valkyrie space. The galaxy was learning to coexist. Inspired in part by the story of a quiet human and the alien woman who loved him. The sword had been drawn, and the world had indeed changed. But sometimes, Valeth thought as she held her husband close, change was exactly what the universe needed, in the garden below. The flowers bloomed in colors that had never existed on any single world. Human roses grew beside Valkyrie crystal weeds, creating something new and beautiful. Something that would not have existed if two people from different worlds had not chosen to love each other. That was the real lesson, Valeth realized. Not that humans were dangerous, though they were. Not that love could transform monsters, though it could. The real lesson was simpler than that. The universe was vast and cold and often cruel. But within it, there were moments of warmth. Connections that defied logic. Love that survived impossible odds. And sometimes, all it took was one quiet human with a gentle heart to remind the galaxy of that truth. The end.